Revolution Rango. Studio A for Omnium Gatherum, a kaleidoscope of discussion, Thursdays at 4 p.m. and Saturdays at 10 p.m. only at Revolution Radio. To Revolution Radio, Studio A for Omnium Gatherum, a kaleidoscope of discussion, Thursdays at 4 p.m. and Saturdays at 10 p.m. only at Revolution Radio.
Welcome to Coffee Rants with Dan. I am the spiritual anarchist, Dan Arnold, your host. Tune in for what's really happening every Thursday. That's Thursday at 9 a.m. in Studio A on Revolution Radio. They keep us in fear to manipulate us. They want us ignorant so we're easier to enslave. They make us murder one another so they don't have to do it themselves. Only you can break their mind control by healing the contradictions within your belief systems that allow you to accept their lies in the first place. The time has come for us to remember our divinity, who we really are, to return to what we are meant to be, a service to others, to return to nature, and to reclaim our birthright, that which is freedom. The truth will sound belligerent because it is in direct opposition to lies, so get angry, because anger is sacred, and together we can unite and rise. Rise from this darkness. Humanity, assemble.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome to Plato's Cave, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. Listener-funded radio, which means if you can donate, please do. If you can't, please tell people about the station. If you can donate, any currency is good, including crypto. And if you can't, it's just like, share, comment is good. Subscribe is even better if you can. That would be awesome. You can listen to us on pretty much any platform, and I believe soon enough on Netflix, I want to say. Maybe that's true. Hopefully, maybe, possibly. But even on a Grace tabletop digital radio at home. That's right. Pretty darn good. Now, before I start broadcasting at you in anger, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which I'm broadcasting, and of course it's the... Yes, do you know it? Darak people. That's right. And I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the elders past, present, and future. Thank you very much. Of course, archives are free as well. Archives are free. Now, Dave... has fallen asleep. Oy vey. Dave has fallen asleep. He's getting old. He's getting on in years. He's almost 87,000 years old. So, you know, you get tired after a certain time. It's all good. It happens. I do hope I'm coming through loud and clear. I'm sure I am. Now, yeah, look, again, do you remember why we started Plato's Cave? As you might know, we have another show called The Shiny Side Out, which plays on Sundays or Saturday night for people in America. And Plato's Cave was just a stream of consciousness, you know, shining lights into the darker corners, in the dark recesses of our consciousness, the dark mysteries, the secrets. You know, again, this is harking back, of course, to Plato's cave analogy, which is still, in my opinion, one of the most apt ways of describing society. It's over 2,000 years old, right? Let me refresh your memory. There was a guy, he was chained to the floor with a whole bunch of other people, and he could only look at the cave wall, couldn't really move his head, and all he saw, unbeknownst to him, of course, were shadows on the wall. To him, of course, and to all the others, this was reality. He somehow managed to struggle free and run up out of the cave onto the real world, and he was amazed to see the sun, the sky, trees, the actual things, the things of which hitherto he had only seen the shadows of. He promptly went back downstairs to tell his fellow people what he had discovered, and as you might expect, they beat him to death for his troubles. Right? And still, this is still happening. We're still just looking at the shadows on the wall. It's all just smoke and mirrors. And the truth is never revealed. There's a lot of red herrings, and some of them are really, really good red herrings. I mean, really successful red herrings. Seriously, I mean, look at some of the stuff that's out there. Doom scrolling is naturally one. Doom scrolling is one way to, get our attention away from the things that matter, and it also has allowed the parasites to give our kids and even us much shorter attention spans. The only reason that people like Newton and Einstein and others were able to do what they did was because they locked themselves away, sometimes for a year or two at a time, to work on an equation, to work on a problem, whatever it might be. But they had to focus. Focus was paramount to their efforts. If they hadn't had the ability to focus for long periods of time, well, then it wouldn't really have boded well for us, because they would never have made the discoveries that they did. So, there's a lot to be said to be, for being able to focus and concentrate and really get into something rather than having the attention span of a goldfish. So, where does that leave all of us? It leaves us in a state of flux, where we have a hard time deciding what is real, what is not, what we should pay attention to, what not. Right? If you want to know the deeper mysteries that Dave and I are delving into, you can listen on a Sunday. Right now we're talking about the hypothesis, which in some ways is a new cosmology which we're proposing, a new way to understand the world we're in. Of course, we've stood on the shoulders of giants to get the insights that we did. So I hope you find those insights illuminating as well. I did bite my tongue earlier today, so if my speech sounds a little different, that's because I bit my tongue. Alright, so what can we look forward to? We are bracing ourselves for the world's strongest storm of 2025. Hurricane Melissa is making landfall in Jamaica, and these are catastrophic, life-threatening winds, and I believe 250 kilometers an hour winds. This is what I heard. Sorry, I lied to you. 282 kilometers an hour, which is about 170 miles an hour. This is catastrophic. It really is. I mean, wow. Okay. Don't know if that path is going to put it into the continental United States as well, but certainly for Cuba, Jamaica, it's horrific. No, it's missing the U.S. altogether. It's made a beeline for Cuba and Jamaica. Wow, that's pretty bad. So the United States are safe, but this is definitely heading to into the Caribbean. So brace yourselves. This could be pretty darn bad. We also we're still dealing with Gaza. The ceasefire seems to be holding, which is great. Israel is still controlling a very large part of Gaza, so that hasn't changed. But I do believe that Netanyahu, I do believe that Netanyahu is going to finish his plan of annexing Gaza and the West Bank. In fact, the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, voted to annex the West Bank. that's so. So we're going to take Gaza. We're going to take the West Bank. Thank you very much, Palestinians. I'll see you later. Not awesome. Which brings me to the next thing. 2 years on, and I've got a few numbers here which are pretty horrific. Now, these are official numbers. Okay, now, I still maintain that probably in excess of 200,000 have been killed. 200,000 Palestinians have been killed by the actions of Israel in Gaza. But we've learned recently that Hamas doesn't need an enemy. Hamas is quite happy to kill its own people, which was horrific. I don't know if you've seen this, but Hamas was executing people in Gaza, maybe rival gangs, maybe collaborators, or they call collaborators. But this is not how you get your people together. Hamas, after being pummeled by Israel, you go out and kill your own people? Really? Serious? I mean, this is ridiculous. Okay, I mean, I'm no big fan of what Israel did in Gaza, but I can tell you right now, Hamas has lost all credibility as far as I'm concerned. As soon as they started killing their own people, when Israel withdrew, this is beyond the pale. It really is. Now, but the official numbers, 67,000 Palestinians were killed, and thousands more under the rubble. I think the number is going to be north of 200,000. Apparently, at least 20,000 children were killed. And that number, the official number, that's 1 out of every 33 people in Gaza. 1 out of 33. And 1 out of 14 people in Gaza were injured. So officially 169,000 have been injured. That's 1 out of 14 people in Gaza. And to make matters worse, to add insult to injury, 125 hospitals and clinics are damaged or destroyed, and 1,722 health and aid workers have been killed. That's doctors, nurses, aid workers, etc. It's horrible. So look, this is awful. This is dreadful. This is just not. It's not necessary. What is the solution? What's the solution? The solution is ideally it's a two-state solution, right? You do want a Palestine, you do want an Israeli state. Israel has every right to exist, as does Palestine. But after all this time now, it's been 8 years almost. No, actually, yeah, almost 8 years of this kind of conflict. I think it's hard to remember what you're really after. And what you're after here is, if you're Palestinian, is your own state, your own self-governed state. That's what you want. Not ruled by Hamas, but by the Palestinian Authority or some other body, right? And if you're Israeli, what you want peace. You want to exist and prosper, right? After all the tribulations the Jewish people had to experience during the diaspora over the last 2,000 years, it wasn't just Germany that persecuted the Jews. Okay, my ancestors, which were Ukrainian Jews, in the late 19th century, I'd say 1870, 1880 probably, they went from the Ukraine to Germany because of the Russian pogroms, which killed about 100,000 Jews at that time. Okay, so these killings of Jews in Europe are not new. The Germans just took it to the next level, obviously. The numbers beg a belief. You can't even imagine the scale of death that took place. It was an industrial machine that ferried millions of people to the concentration camps, had them killed, and then burned. And it is still unimaginable, to be honest. The totality of that catastrophe is still unimaginable for any people. It would be the same for any people. And of course, gypsies and communists and socialists and so forth, handicapped people, gay people, they were all killed during the Nazi regime in Germany, which really wasn't that long a period in history, if you think about it. Before the whole Nazi debacle, Germany was known as the country, das Land der Dichter und Denker, which was the land of poets and thinkers, right? Goethe and Schiller and so forth. But let's say 1933 is the Nazis came to power. Let's say that 33 to 45. That's 12 years. 12 years of Nazi rule, killing tens of millions of people during World War II, both in war action as well as in genocidal mania. But 12 years. And it changed the face of Europe. It changed the destiny of the German people. It changed the way the German people saw themselves. It changed the destiny and fate of the Jewish people. Without World War II, there would have been no Israel. Okay? If World War II hadn't happened in the way it did, Israel wouldn't exist today. Right? This is a fact. But, look, what else do we have? The Ukraine war. And I'm going to say it again. I know I sound like a broken record. Donald Trump is not doing anything at all to do anything about the Ukraine war or to hurt Putin in any meaningful way. Same as he didn't hurt Netanyahu in any meaningful way. Netanyahu is going to achieve what he wants to achieve. He will. It's going to happen. Okay? So, for now, there's a bit of a lull in hostility, but I'm pretty sure those hostilities will be resumed before long, and Israel will annex Gaza and Israel will annex the West Bank. That's going to happen. Ukraine, same thing. Russia hasn't let up, but this is the crazy thing, right? Just the forces, the military forces. This is the latest figures are to about now, September, October, right? So apparently the Ukrainian forces lost 80,000 killed and about 400,000 wounded. Horrendous number. The Russian forces. Now these are estimates that are ranging from. These are the Russian numbers. 326,000 killed. The Russian numbers. And the economists of other sources. 480,000 killed. 480,000. Total losses of the Russian forces, that's killed and wounded, the estimates run as high as 1.4 million. 1.4 million killed and wounded. These are World War II numbers. Okay? World War I numbers maybe. But these are numbers that we haven't seen in a long time, these kinds of casualties. In the millions. And again, killed and wounded. Right? But if this goes on, it'll be millions killed, not just wounded. Is this acceptable? We know that Putin doesn't care about his people because he sends them to die to conquer the Ukraine. And that's the stated aim. That's what he wants to do. Lying about it. But is it worth it? Millions of citizens affected. Because for every person killed and wounded, there's a family waiting for them. So this is not just 1.5 million killed and wounded. This is tens of millions of Russians affected by it. And apparently in the provinces where the recruitment drive was the strongest Russian forces, there are these massive cemeteries that sprung to bury the dead from the conflict. Massive new cemeteries. But he doesn't care. Putin doesn't care. And this is my point. It's always been my point that these people in power, do not care one way or another about anyone. And remember, these are his citizens. These are his countrymen and women. Right? This is not an enemy here, where that he sends to battle. This is his own people he sends to battle, and they're being shredded by the Ukrainian forces. There's no other way to describe it. They're being shredded. It's just like a meat grinder, only faster. It's a shredder. They're throwing people into the shredder, killing hundreds of thousands, wounding, close to 1 million. And what is this going to do for the future? This has destroyed an entire generation, just like Gaza has destroyed an entire generation of Palestinians. Same, with this Ukraine and Russia. There's this one generation which has been affected dreadfully. This generation has been destroyed, and these are young men, obviously, mostly, that are being killed and wounded. Now to the tune of millions. This is a conflict that will be with us for a long time. But to what end? To what end? Why? Because Putin wants to resurrect the great Russian Empire. The USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, stretching from all the way from Kamchatka to Kaliningrad, Königsberg, which used to be Prussia back in the day. It's a vast land. It's many other nations that used to be part of it, as you know. A lot of Soviet republics weren't necessarily Russian. Chechens and Belarusians and Slovenians and so forth. There's a whole raft of, including the Baltic states, a whole raft of people. The Scandinavian states are also on high alert. European Union is building its military in a way it hasn't for a long time. Not since World War II. The Europeans are, especially the Germans, it's just what? Unheard of. Same with the Poles. The Poles are leading the charge. Building up massively. And at the same time, we are contending with the changing world. All these conflicts are all around us. We haven't really learned anything smarter or wiser as a people. And yet, technology is outpacing us at every turn. Let me give you some examples. Biotechnology. We are now getting close to be able to, create designer babies on demand, to change our very own genetic information, CRISPR tool. Even in vivo, meaning live subjects, can have their DNA rearranged. Living creatures have their DNA rearranged. Of course, the benefits are immeasurable. You would get rid, or you could potentially get rid of any genetic disorder, dysfunction, any kind of genetic disease. We probably could get rid of cancer, but any defect could be edited out for genetic. Right? Think about that for a second. Phenomenal. Not just us, though. Not just us. We can apply this to other creatures too, other animals, right? And this is where it gets really strange. We can create now. We're now able to create hybridized creatures, right? Animal-human hybrid. Nobody really raises an eyebrow if you create animal hybrids. That so what? That's okay. That's it's interesting, but it doesn't raise any ethical questions really. Not for too many people anyway. But if you create animal-human hybrid, that raises a raft of different things. I mean, at what point, we spoke about this, but at what point does the animal become human? How much DNA percentage does it need to have before we recognize it as a person? Right? I mean, chimpanzees and so great apes, they're very close to us already, 98%, right? Percent. In some cases, and so there's not much changing required, not much altering of the DNA. Are we creating a new species of Homo sapiens? If we were to alter gorilla or orangutan or chimpanzee or bonobo DNA, are we creating a new species? Is that what we're doing? Is that what happened to us? Gone dim and distant past. Possibly. We know it's possible. See, that's the thing. We know it's possible. So what we are able or capable of doing to other species could very well have been done to us in the long forgotten past. But this is a real issue. At what point does an animal become a person? How much human DNA does it need? And then, the application for diseases and targeting populations based on the DNA is of course out there. We can create superbugs that will wipe us out in a second. There's no doubt in my mind that someone out there in some laboratory is working on some kind of super virus or super bacterium or some kind of plague. Oh, it's all in the interest of national defense, national security. Well, of course it is. Of course it is. Clearly. One should not with that. But then we come to quantum computing. That is now being coupled with AI. Now, what does this mean? I've been in the industry now for, I don't want to say 30 years in IT. And I had my first computer when I was 14 or 15, Commodore C64. Oh yeah, 32 kilobytes of operating memory. The rest was taken up by BASIC, the program which did. That was back in the mid 80s, I think. I saw the first version of Windows deployed at the European Space Agency. I was lucky enough to be a school intern, work experience. Yeah. So I went to a grammar school near the Space Agency in Cologne. The school managed to get us two places. That's right. Britta Sean, she came with me. I think we were there for 3 or 4 weeks. Every morning, walked up to the ESA, and we were part of the space medicine department. It was fascinating. I spoke to a IT guy there, and he said to me back then, right, 84, 85, maybe 86. He said Windows is the future. I learned as much as I can about Windows. He didn't care about the space program. He just wanted to learn Windows. Fair enough too, right? But the point here is that we're now reaching capabilities in the computing space that we didn't even dream about. And we got there so rapidly, it boggles the mind. Recently, we completed calculations that would have taken regular supercomputers longer than the age of the universe. It was completed in minutes by these new quantum computers. It does boggle the mind. And we're not prepared, again, for this kind of thing. And if you combine that level of computing power and now also storage power that we're working on, right? We're talking about crystalline storage or laser storage, and we're talking petabytes that put the device no bigger than a thumbnail soon enough. Petabytes, and you combine this with our foray into what we like to call AI, and if you combine the two, I have no idea how this will end. What I know about AI is this: AI is going to severely affect the job market. AI will come and take a lot of jobs away. Now, the same thing happened during the Industrial Revolution, right? Came along and the factories, the machines replaced, thousands, tens of thousands of jobs, right? 19th century. Unemployment was high, and back then the population wasn't that. Our population numbers weren't that great, right? They weren't what we have today, nowhere near. But it was still an impact. So many people were unemployed, and this was usually solved by war. And World War I came along and solved some of that problem, but because it did destroy a whole bunch of industrial base in Europe specifically, which was driving the Industrial Revolution, another war was needed, which was World War II, which sort of leveled out the scales and rebalanced the workforce. And after World War II, everybody spoke about the economic miracle. It's not a miracle when you bomb everything into the Stone Age and then, get money to rebuild it. That's not a miracle, that's a consequence. And that's what the Marshall Plan did both for Germany and for Japan. Of course, it was good for America too. They opened up the European markets, Asian markets, African, South American markets had already been open to them, but opening up the European markets to Americans, Western Europe at least, that was a feat. That was a feat that was a game changer for the United States. A massive market of hundreds of millions of people now consume American goods, American TV shows, American services, American entertainment, etc., etc. Right? But it was not a miracle. There was nothing left of Germany, so the Americans pumped money into it, and the Germans, being what they are, quite industrious, came back fairly quickly, rebuilt, became a European powerhouse. Japan, same thing, right? Suffered defeat at the hands of the Americans, got a lot of money to rebuild, and came back with a vengeance. So no, not a miracle, but a fairly carefully laid out plan, which bore fruit and was really good for America for a long time. And then, in the 70s and 80s, they started dabbling with free trade, moving, production centers to cheaper countries, etc., etc. But both AI and quantum computing are putting us firmly on the threshold to something I have no idea what it will look like. Okay, now the computing power that we're talking about here is so immense that a lot of scientists believe that we are actually stretching it across the multiverse. We are somehow, the quantum machines that we're using are somehow hooking into other universes to perform the calculations as quickly as. So apparently, it's hard to explain the computing power otherwise. So we might well be using the multiverse as our field of computers, as a parallel computing, I guess, right? But we don't know exactly how it works. So that's why we think, well, maybe it is the multiverse that we're utilizing here. And when it comes to AI, it is advancing so quickly, so rapidly. Now, I'm not sure if we have true AI at this point. I don't know. We might, right? We might, but I don't know because I haven't seen it. I've worked with, large language models and these AI engines. I use Opus for the shorts you see that we put out on the net. I'm using Copilot and other AI engines for work. But they're not independently thinking machines, right? They're learning. They're very clever, and they get up, fool you, and they make things a lot easier in many ways for your work, hobbies. But they're not personages. They're not persons yet. It's not a person. But I'm not sure that we're too far away from it, especially with the power of quantum computing, right? And what will happen then? What will happen if these AIs, whatever we're going to call them, artificial persons, because if they are independently, consciously aware, we have to confer personhood on them. Okay? It's the same with the animal hybrids I was talking about. If they have consciousness and they are self-aware, we have to confer personhood on them. Okay? We don't really have a choice. And these machines are powerful enough to, make us trouble if we didn't do that. This is, when you go into the golden age science fiction of Isaac Asimov, I guess Arthur C. Clarke to a lesser extent. Asimov, he looked at robots, artificial intelligence, we call now artificial intelligence, a lot. His positonic brain was a person. He invented the positonic brain that he would put into his robots, and it was like a human brain, created a personality, created self-aware individuals. And a lot of his stories deal with that. Don't watch the movies, read the stories. Isaac Asimov. He also gave us the 3 laws of robotics. So, where does it end? Where will it end? Well, like I said, It could be catastrophic for the job market. It really could. Or it could be a new golden age. Imagine of all the things that we could soon be capable of. 20 years ago, I read an article that said that my generation, Generation X, might be the last generation to die, or the first generation to live forever. And we are on the precipice. We're at the threshold of this. We really are. The advances we're making are they're no longer linear. Okay, they're now geometric. The knowledge that we gain is virtually impossible to quantify, classify, and understand in any meaningful way. There's no one person that could understand everything that we do every year. It's just not possible. We do need AI just to stay ahead of what it is we're heading to, what we're achieving, right? But if you look at the advances in biotech, if you look at the advances in cybernetics, if you look at the advances in genetics, specifically when I say biotech, but genetics to CRISPR, etc., and then artificial intelligence, which will help us to do things better, faster, together with quantum computing, there really is no reason why we can't achieve practical immortality very soon. There really isn't. There's no reason at all why we can't achieve practical immortality. Of course, at that point we have to ask ourselves, what now, right? And the only sensible, non-killing solution here is to go into space. Or interdimensional travel. That's good if we can figure that out. But space is definitely something we have to seriously explore. Maybe build generation ships to go to nearby star systems. Take a couple of years to get there. Current tech. So either put them into hypersleep, or they're generational ships where 2, 3, 4 generations live and die on the ship, and then the descendants will arrive from Alpha Centauri or somewhere. So these are all things that we have to deal with, but no one is. No one is looking at this because our society is completely focused on profit. Okay, making money, greed. No one is looking at the human race at large, trying to chart a course, if you will. What's the course for the human race? Does anybody ever ask that question? Where are we going? Is anybody guiding us? Maybe there is, maybe there's not, but it doesn't feel like it. Not really. We're certainly being steered away from things. Dave and I spoke about that, knowledge filter, as well as certain subjects we shouldn't research or engage in, etc., etc. Anti-gravity being one of them, obviously, or free energy. So the question then becomes, how do we get to the place we need to go? We do need to be guided. I mean, there has to be some plan. There has to be a plan in place as to how we're going to deal with the next 100, 500,000 years, especially with the power that we are now wielding. It's immense power. I mean, we've been able to destroy the planet for probably for 80 years now with nuclear weapons. We've had that potential. We haven't done it. Kudos to us. We haven't done it. But these new technologies are far more powerful than any nuclear bomb, right? So what do we do? I mean, what if let's say we have practical immortality, for argument. What would it lead to? Overpopulation within a generation or two, right? Because if you got practical immortality, no one dies, you still have children, but no one dies, so there's no space. So instead of 8 billion people, you will soon have 16 billion people, and then 32 billion people. And depending on how people, procreate, it might be exponential. Okay, at that point. And at that point, we will have problems. I mean, right now we're okay. There's enough for everybody. It's just the distribution that's the problem. But if you get to 16, 32 billion, 64 billion people on this planet, no chance. Forget about it. So we really have no choice but to go outwards into space, or invent dimensional travel or time travel. It's also good. You can have a colony in the distant past. Like if we let's say you put the colony 150 million years into the past, for argument's sake, right? Chances are that it's not going to significantly alter our experience because too much time has passed between us and them, as long as you don't put any colonies in between. So if you go back even 200 million years, right, you send 1 billion or 2 billion people into the past 200 million years ago, they build a civilization, etc. They do what they might even go to the stars. Maybe that's all. I mean, this is fascinating stuff, right? It's crazy stuff. But this is the stuff that we have to think about with the capabilities that we're building for ourselves, right? We are still the monkey that puts his hand into a hole to see if there's a snake. We are still that monkey. We still don't have a plan for the race, for the species, even wider ranging for the planet. I mean, we're not here alone. There's millions, if not billions, of other species here, right? That share the planet with us, that have every right to exist just as we do, right? We don't even think about their future. It doesn't even. I mean, some people do. Very few people. Most people don't even know what's the future of the giraffe. What's the future of the elephant? Most people couldn't care less. Or, I'm being harsh. Some people would go, we should really do something. We shouldn't have them, go extinct. Yeah, no, okay. But species are going extinct all the time, and some of them we are making extinct, right? But by the same token, we are now thinking of bringing extinct species back, which is another fascinating thing, right? So Jurassic Park might not be that fictional at all. We certainly have the means to bring back megafauna from 20,000 years ago. I'm thinking mammoth, mastodon, saber-toothed tiger, dire wolf, etc., etc. So, yeah, it's definitely a possibility to consider. I mean, again, the positive aspect of all our achievements in science and technology and so forth is mind-boggling. The things that we could do for the good are mind-boggling. If only we could shed this disease of greed, this disease of capitalism. Capitalism is dead. It died. It's been dying for a while, but it died in 2008. It died completely. Right? It didn't just die. We killed it. We killed capitalism. What we have now is not capitalism. It's not capitalism. If the government intervenes, okay, to prop up an industry or a sector or a company, that's not capitalism. That's fascism. Okay? That's the state governing industry. And now Donald Trump is asking for fealty from some of these people. Right? But make no mistake, this is something we will have to deal with. If only we could get rid of that mindset of making money all the time. If only we could do something better, something more meaningful with our lives. Right? I mean, whoever said that it is normal to, 9-10 hours a day, 5 days, 6 days a week, during the best years of your life, and then retire in your 60s, 70s, maybe these days, when you only have a few years left, before you become a doddering idiot. Whoever said this was life? And then the parasites, of course, are enjoying life every day. The parasites are living. We are merely most of us. We try to make the most of it, and I, of course, and everybody in Australia, or most people in Australia or in the States, we are living very well compared to the rest of the world. Right? The rest of the world is not doing so good. And that's a fact. But just the potential that we have, to rise above our petty squabbles and greed and create something truly magnificent, something mind-boggling. I think I've used that word like 20 times today. There's nothing that's stopping us but us. Okay? we choose not to do these things. We choose to hoard knowledge and wealth in isolation and to the detriment of the rest of the human race. There is a limited number of resources. There's a limited number of resources in this solar system, right? Let's talk about the solar system, because people argue, oh no, we can always mine the comets and mine the moon and whatever. Sure, you could. It's still a limited number of resources. And the more resources are concentrated in a small group of people, the less there is for everybody else. It's very simple math. It really is. It's not rocket science. And I think it was beautifully illustrated in the movie, I think it was called Out of Time, or something like that. I think it was Justin Timberlake. And this was a society that had somehow conquered time or life energy. So everybody up to the age of, I think, 20 I can't think it was 20. They could live a normal life, and it's wonderful, good. But then at the age of 20, they all only had 1 year, right? And you had to work to get more time. And you can actually get time, right? And it would show us a digital number on your wrist. And you earn time, living time by working. And of course, there were always these parasites, the high society, if you will, that hoarded millions of years for themselves. Now, what that meant is you no longer aged. I think it was the age of 20 when you stopped aging, 20 or 25, something like that. And you wouldn't age anymore, right? You would be frozen at that moment in time, and if you could get more time, then you would be in that state forever, right? As a young, healthy person. Right? But it still meant that a lot of people died young, or younger than the normal life expectancy would have. So if you couldn't work enough, or you couldn't, do enough to get more time to live, this is apparently, if you look at it, it was day to day in the movie. They're living from day to day on, like a 24, 36-hour basis, and literally their life would be taken away in front of their eyes and measured in hours, not years, in hours. And all of the extra capacity, the extra capacity of all that life energy, whatever they bottled, whatever it is, right? That went to the parasitic few. And like I said, they were hoarding millions and millions of years for themselves. Again, my point here is, the more you concentrate something, anything, any resource in the hands of the few, the less there is for everybody else. And that's our fundamental issue. Nothing else. That's our fundamental problem. We have a really big resource distribution problem, which is driven by individual greed. And we look up to these people. We think, oh, look at these people, they're so achieving. No. Ask yourself what you have to do to become a billionaire. Ask yourself the moral and ethical things that you didn't do. Ask yourself the crimes you had to commit, the people you had to kill, the people you had to stab in the back, disadvantage, somehow injure or hurt, or take advantage of. There's not a single billionaire that didn't hurt another person. Right? And the super wealthy, even hundreds of millions of people, that's just insane. It's just insane wealth. How's that even a sensible thing to have? How much do you need is the question. How much do you need? Right? And that's our fundamental issue. We don't know when to say when. The greed that we have is all-consuming. And the funny thing is this. It's something that we were taught. We didn't have this, not all of us, not on this scale. I mean, there are always greedy people, and megalomaniacs and kings and queens that were filled with bloodlust and all kinds of things. Of course, that's normal, right? But this need to consume and to have more and more nonsense and crap that you don't need, that's a fairly recent phenomenon, right? This came about with the invention of psychology, which then gave birth to its ugly stepchild, marketing, right? Marketing, advertising. grew out of psychology. I think it was Freud's nephew that really kick-started marketing, the marketing think. And all of a sudden advertising was there, and people had to buy more stuff they didn't need and wanted, and all kinds of methodologies and tricks were deployed to dupe people into believing they had to get this, they had to get that, in order to be happy. This will get, oh yeah, now if you have this big screen TV, you will be happy. If your car is faster than your neighbor's, you will be happy. Or you'll be happier than your neighbor at least, right? Of course, it's complete nonsense. None of these things make us happy. None of them, right? And we've made it so that money can actually solve most of our problems. That's how we've made it. We've made that. Right? But whatever happened to the satisfaction of a hard day's work? You feel after some raising a family. I mean, if you want to see what life could be, look at the Mormons to some extent, but more so look at the Mennonites. Look at the Amish. If you want to see what life could be. This is, I mean, you have to ask yourself, what is life for? Is the life we're living healthy? And it's not normal. We should all of us, be in a mental institution. We should be in a mental institution. We should be medicated, all of us, for the way we live. It makes no sense. The way we drive our children to fit into the machine. Okay? And soon enough, that won't be necessary when quantum computing and AI reach their peak. Human input will no longer be required. Thank you very much. Yeah. No, it's all good. There's your suicide booth over there. Off you go. Oh, no, not for you? No, okay, no, just go to this address. It's the Soylent Green Factory. The Soylent Green Factory. Yeah. Just step right in and say you're ready for processing. They'll look after you. Any horror that you can imagine, someone is visiting it right now. But it doesn't have to be that way. It can be a different way. It can be better. We can be better. We can be better. We can be so much better. But it starts with us, right? Each single one of us. What are we doing here? Stop the greed. Stop buying the stuff you don't need. Stop consuming. Please. Right? There's more of us than them. Parasites don't have the power. They seem to have the power. They don't have the power. But it seems like they do. I get it. And it's scary. Right? But who are you? Who are you? Are you going to stand up and be counted? Are you going to be bystander? Are you going to be supporter? Are you going to actively support the system? Or, are you one of those people that, are bystanders that just let it happen? Are you that person? I don't know. Right? I like to think of myself as a rebel rouser, as a person that speaks against the machine. I'm in the machine, I'm working in the machine, but I'm also in my own small, tiny way rebelling against the machine. Right? But by teaching my kids certain things they need to know. By allowing them to, choose their own future. Not having it predetermined by me. By having these radio programs, sharing my thoughts, Dave sharing his thoughts. Right? I mean, I'm not a firebrand. When I was younger, I was. But I'm not a revolutionary either. Not in that sense. Would I follow a revolution if it were to come? Yeah, I would probably support it. Yeah. Because we can't get to where we need to go incrementally. Right? We have to do it in a quick, decisive motion. The system that we have today no longer works for most people. For most people. I'm talking about most people here. It works very, very well for the few. It works extremely well for the few. I mean, look around. It is the super rich. They are living. Okay? The vast majority of the humans on this planet Never mind the other creatures who share this planet. Right? But what will it take? What will it take to change things? When I was younger, I thought I could. As you get older, you realize that maybe, the power for change that you believed you had is not as vast and unassailable as you thought it might be. So if someone listens to our programs and they have a new thought, or might have a slightly different thought, or they might have a realization, I'm going to count that as a win. That's a win. If somebody enjoys our broadcast and takes something away they didn't know before, that's a win. If someone listens to the broadcast and feels, hey, maybe I can change my life a bit, maybe I can do things different a little bit, that's a win. That's a win. Right? Aim small, miss small. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't dream. You shouldn't dream big. You should dream big. Absolutely, you should dream big. But, just make small changes to your life. Little steps. Right? Pay it forward. If you see someone in need, pay it forward. Pay it forward. Right? It's not going to break the bank. Buy someone a meal. Buy someone a bus ticket. If you've got the means, take a person off the street. Help clean them up if that's who you are, if you can afford to do that. Right? But it's nice to pay forward. I like this. I like the whole concept of it. I really do. I think it's awesome. Little, small little things, little miracles. Right? Helping someone up that fell. Okay? Listening to someone that, doesn't have anyone else. Just because everybody has a story. Everybody wants to tell a story. Everybody wants to be heard. That's the music, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Plato's Cave, brought to you on a Tuesday. Today is the 28th of October, 2025. And don't go anywhere. Something else is going to come up. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be brilliant. Donate if you can. Like I said, this is Listener Funded Radio. If you see us out in the world, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all of those wonderful things. But in the meantime, be safe.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.
Join Revolution Radio every Sunday at 5 p.m. Studio B for Strange Universe. Strange Universe.
Through everything, we have to remember that we have more in common than not in common. And to find this common ground, tune in to Conversations with Eagleflower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio A. Because we come to this table of life to learn in the best possible way and experience this gift of life from our mutual Creator. So let's learn together and build our best future with Conversations with Eagleflower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A on Revolution Radio.
Are you interested in the paranormal? Murder mystery? Real natural law? Do you enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crip Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern.